right. So what do we? Okay.
We're live with just
So what about
if you're on, then you should be able to get on your the Michaela's Facebook right now. Just her campaign page, so she can also share any.
Hi, y'all. Welcome to Black Women Run DC. We are so excited to be here, and we have all campaigns here on site. I'm hoping that you can hear me. I'm Zane Baloch, founder of YAP. We're excited to be here in DC with this light shining behind me and be around all these historic women who are going to make history and be your next Congresswoman. So, first up, we have Maurice, and he is going to talk to you about a candidate. So let's start with that. Oh, Maurice just left, so we don't have Maurice. And the lighting is a little bit bad. So we're gonna go ahead and start with Maurice is back. So I'm gonna add you to the stream. And I'm gonna let you take it from here because it's loud. It's loud out here. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk about your candidate, why you're working for this campaign, and why this event is so important.
Well, first of all, I want to actually just say, can you repeat that question? Because you broke up for a split second there. You're on mute, but I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm sorry. So uh, hear me or see me? I apologize for the technical difficulties. There's a lot going on here in Chicago. And one of the main things that's going on here, obviously, is the first congressional race with over 20 candidates. And I have the privilege being a part of this campaign with the phenomenal candidate in Stephanie Rose Spalding, Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding. And I can tell you without a doubt, in the number of years that I've done this and the people that I've met across this city, I've never, and I say this with all humility, met a candidate like Stephanie. So to be able to be her campaign manager is by far the greatest privilege that I've had in this profession. And one of the other things that I will say that like completely mesmerizes me is that the reception she gets from just regular people, everyday people. So right now I'm currently in Hyde Park, and I was meeting with some of the constituents, and we were actually sitting here talking about Stephanie. And before I can get a real word out about who she is, they're already excited about voting for her. Whether they seen a picture of her or they saw the Essence interview or they saw an interview of her previous experience, they are excited about Stephanie because she is truly a breath of fresh air. She's not a part of the establishment, which is something that I think we all want. She is especially interesting in that, with all of her accolades, she's one of the most down to earth people and most relatable people that this district has ever come across. This district has been plagued by established Democrats, and everyone sees that she is not that. Her policies make sense, but most importantly, her intentions make sense. And that is why I'm, quite frankly, privileged to be on this campaign as her manager and working with her. I can't wait. I can't wait for the next. What I can't wait to see what the next 3 months has to offer.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Carter. I am the GC for, despite the fact that it says Marine in the lower third. There we go. My name is Neil Carter. I'm the general consultant and strategic advisor for Christine Olivo for Congress. It's an honor, first of all, to be here virtually and some of y'all in person. I want to say that if nothing that we've learned over the past, not just week, but also as of last night, it is incredibly important, not just to elect Black women, but more importantly, to protect them. And Christine is, first of all, an amazing example of not just Black womanhood, but also Black motherhood, and also a shining example in her district of what it takes to lead by example. She is someone who comes from a working poor family, an immigrant family. She's first generation Haitian American, lived in Florida's 26th district her entire life, and someone who understands vehemently how important it is to elect strong and important leadership, not just in Florida, but also nationwide. It's why she's in a room full of strong leaders that also believe in cohesive leadership and forward-thinking progress. Christine is an amazing candidate. I can't speak any more highly of her, only to say that it is incredibly important in her race and in all these races to donate. Today is literally at midnight, one of the most crucial financial deadlines in this cycle, and it is incredibly important for everyone in the room and everyone online to donate to her campaign. Again, the lower third is right there. Please donate to her campaign. Please donate to all the campaigns. It's incredibly important to donate before this financial quarter closes at midnight. Thank you for attending. Thank you for listening. And most importantly, thank you for supporting these amazing women. And most importantly, thank you, Christine, for your steadfast leadership.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karaurantan. I'm so excited to be with you, and I am the proud and honored campaign manager for the one and only, the Nina Turner. She is an incredible champion for working people across this country, And if you are like me, a first generation college graduate, if you are like me, still saddled with student debt, if you are like me and you have parents who have worked well into their golden years after working very hard to make a vision and a future for their kids, then you know how important it is to have economic policies that lift working families. And especially and disproportionately people of color. And there is no bigger, greater, more consistent champion than Nina Turner herself. And so I am a part of this campaign because I know exactly what it means to have a voice like hers in Congress. And I know what it means for the millions of people that she has been able to touch across this country, for the millions of people that are counting on the progressive movement to move the needle on policies like a minimum wage, like canceling student debt, like Medicare for all. And so I just want you all to know that what you're doing today, getting involved and investing in these great candidates, is about the future of our country. It's about the direction of this nation. And it is about lifting working families. And so these women like Nina Turner and all of the women on this stage are committed to serving their communities in excellence, and they're committed to serving the least of these. And so I am so excited and so proud, and that is why I am glad to be with you. And I thank you in advance for your investment and your sacrifice, because we know that it is a sacrifice with so much going on right now. It may be hard to give, but we're excited that you are here and that you plan to give and dig deep, and that you should know your investment is going into turning out that individual that may be disgruntled with the process. They may be apathetic. They may feel like their vote doesn't count, but we're going to put champions on the field that will be there to lift them up. And so I'm excited to have the Nina Turner there with you in the room. And for all of you watching across the nation, thank you for your support and for being our partner in this work. We will see you over the finish line. Have a great night.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm Travis Pewitt, an organizer for Oakley for Congress. I want to start off by saying I'm in awe of all the amazing, powerful Black women we are fundraising for tonight. You are all an example of what makes this country and the progressive movement truly great. Imani Oakley is the candidate I've been waiting for. In our state, corruption runs deep. Power is delegated by party bosses, funded by a network of corporate PACs and interests. For too long, that has been the status quo. Imani is fighting to change that. Her advocacy work fighting the corrupt ballot design is essential to ensuring that all people in New Jersey have equitable access to political power, not just those deemed fit by the corrupt political machine. Over the course of the campaign, I've gotten to know Imani and her character, and to take on the task she has, you simply must have character. Taking on the New Jersey political machine is no small feat, and to put it bluntly, they're shook. Imani has a sense of compassion that is rarely seen in the political space. She brings empathy and experience in the very issues she's fighting for. She has skin in the game. She is not an onlooker. Facing housing insecurity herself when she almost lost her childhood home to foreclosure, Imani knows the cost of a system that protects the wealthy few and leaves everyone else out to dry. The fact is, New Jersey has never seen a candidate like Imani Oakley, and I am so proud to be on her team.
Hey all, my name is Dash. I'm Michaela Wilkes, campaign manager. I'm actually right here outside the venue where we're having today's event here at the Busboys and Poets. So we're going to be getting the panel started in just a second. So I appreciate everyone who is watching. Michaela Wilkes is running in Maryland's 5th congressional district. She is, in my opinion, exactly the type of person that we need to send to Congress. Someone who's very real, someone who understands the school to prison pipeline because she experienced it and is now fighting to end it. To learn more about Michaela, you can go to michaelawilkes.com or at Meet Michaela on on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Just really, really excited for the event. I was just in the room. We have all 5 candidates there, and it's gonna be a great panel. So stick around to see these 5 candidates talk about why they're all running for Congress, across the country. Here in Maryland, we are running a race against an incumbent who's been in office for 42 years. someone who has taken over $1 million from the fossil fuel industry, taken over $1 million from private health insurance companies, and Michaela is running to be a representative of the people, not of those corporations. This is my shirt, and yeah, we're going to be starting the panel in just a moment.
Oh, Lord.
Do we have SMT? Oh, Lord.
Oh, she's over there.
Forgive me, sisters. Who was that? It's Allison. Perfect. Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me all right? Let's see.
Testing. Perfect. Hello, good evening. Welcome. How are you all doing tonight?
Great.
Hello. Well, in addition to having so many fantastic faces up on this stage, it is an immense pleasure to see all these faces in the audience, and I know welcome so many virtually through the live stream. My name is Kristen Turner. The vast majority of people in the world call me by my initials KT. And in addition to popping around in a squiggle like so many other Black women in politics, I have been on the ballot access side of a presidential campaign. I have dabbled a little bit with movement school. And now I work for an organization called Women Vote, which is the independent side of Emily's List, trying to help get new faces into these races. And so it is my sincere pleasure to be with this immaculate group of women who are helping to set a new consciousness for American politics. So thank you all for coming here this evening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Allison. I am not in the shot. My name is Allison, and I am the founder of Allison Consulting LLC, and I'm one of the organizers of this event. I'm just so honored to share the stage with these amazing women, and the idea came about basically in honor of Women's History Month, we wanted to make sure that we honor and pay tribute to these lovely ladies that have been fighting the good fight in their communities, and we wanted to make sure that their stories are shared with everyone, and especially if we're able to support them financially. As many of these ladies have races that are coming up very soon, we want to make sure that you all are aware of the exciting campaigns, the on-the-ground work that they're putting in, and me and some of my team, my staff at Allison Consulting, and also campaigns have come together to put this event on for you. So very, very honored, and I want to definitely call in just my ancestor, my grandmother, Noreen Allison, who passed away 2 years ago, who would be incredibly proud of this space. And we are also making so much history in this country. And every moment is a history-making moment. My background, when I first got into this space, was really working with Cori Bush, who is Representative Cori Bush, who is an outstanding representative. And my dream is to make sure that she has support, and also that we can push these really important social justice policies that we've been fighting for. So I want to call in and call in my grandmother, and I encourage you all to call in your ancestors here in this moment so that we can really pay tribute to this history-making moment. So again, thank you so much for being here. Really means the world to me.
Thank you so much, Isra. So before we kick off the evening and really, get an opportunity to engage with all of these women, I feel as though it makes the most sense to allow them to introduce themselves on their terms in their ways. And so I'm going to introduce the entirety of the panel first, and then kick it off to each of them individually to share their unique stories. So first and foremost, we have Ms. Christine Olivo, representing Florida's 26th District. Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, my name is Christine Olivo. I was actually born Christine San Jules. I am Haitian, but my husband's Puerto Rican. All right. I was born and raised in Miami-Dade. I'm a first-generation American. Like I said, my family's from Haiti. I have always worked 2 or 3 jobs just to survive. I am now a teacher. I teach at Holy Cross Christian School. I teach 6th through 8th grade. And I look at what these children go through. I look at the struggle and I just say, my God, I know we can do better for them. I'm a mom now. I am married. We have 2 beautiful kids. And I see the life that I want for my children, the life that I didn't have. And that's why I'm here fighting for it. I had to drop out of college at 20 because we were at risk of losing our home. And I had to get 3 jobs to try to save the house that we ended up losing anyway. And we've been displaced ever since. Right now, I am looking forward to a future where my children don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to earn a living wage. I'm looking forward to a day where they don't have to drop out of college, where they can have no student debt whatsoever, but also have a tuition-free college option. I'm out here fighting so that they don't have to lose their house one day, that they can afford to live in the town that they grew up in. But the incumbent who has been in office since I was 5 years old, and I don't mind sharing my age, I'm 38, and it should not take 3 decades for us to see some change. I am running because it is time for change. And I know that this is not going to be easy, but nothing that is worth it is easy. I'm in this to fight, and I'm just ready for you to join me in this fight.
Incredible. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to swing back over this way and now kick it over to Imani Oakley, representing the 10th Congressional District of New Jersey. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hey everyone. So one thing about me is that I don't believe that change can be had until we steadfastly move forward and fight for it. And in my personal opinion, government is a great way to do that, because when you make change through government, it's permanent. There's a sense of permanency. Everyone in this room can think of a law or a regulation that, for better or worse, has impacted you or a family member or a neighbor or a friend for generations. And so, at a very young age, I got the idea that, I want to go into government. I want to go into the seat of power. I want to make permanent change, real permanent change for people who look like me and for people in my communities. And I knew that it was a thing that was possible to do because I saw Barack Obama do it. I saw a leftist named Bernie Sanders do it. And I saw a young woman of color who was also a leftist named AOC do it. So I looked at myself and said, you know what? It's time for me to go after making some real change for my community. And so I started out working in New Jersey politics. Now, for some folks, that doesn't really mean anything. It's like, oh, New Jersey, just a random blue state. But New Jersey has some of the most corrupt machine Tammany Hall style of politics in the nation, where party bosses, who are typically older, rich, white male, they exploit our communities and they see our communities as nothing more than financial and political playgrounds. And it is absolutely time we change that. I am tired of our communities losing to developers. I am tired of our communities losing to ICE agents. I am tired of our communities losing to every single person who does not have our neighbors in mind. And that's why I decided to put my hat in the ring, and that is absolutely why I'm going to win come June 7th, 2022. So thank you all for being here.
This is the energy. Moving right along. Michaela Wilkes, Maryland's 5th Congressional District. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey y'all, so my name is Michaela Wilkes, as you said, and I'm running for Congress to represent Maryland's 5th Congressional District. And just because we are here in DC, I do want to give a shout out to a few of the organizers that are in the room, Kiana Johnson and Nene Tate, who is actually doing bomb-ass work right here for Black liberation. So definitely got to give them props, especially be up here talking about Black people and Black women. Yes.
We love you.
So just a little bit about me. I am someone who is directly impacted, and although my story may not be everyone else's story, it is very similar to a lot of people that are in this country as far as dealing with policy and the way that it affects people in our communities. So growing up, I suffered from grief. My aunt, she passed away on September 11th. She was in the Pentagon, and I was dealing with grief. I began to act out. I was running away from home, skipping school. And instead of being offered resources, which is actually what I needed, I was thrown into the school to prison pipeline. And so essentially for each day of school that I skipped, if I skipped a class, if I was late, I faced up to 10 days in juvenile detention. Anytime I ran away from home, I was sent to juvenile detention. And even in one instance, I was put into a group home for about 6 months, taken away from my mother. Fast forward to as I became an adult, I was incarcerated, essentially because I was living in poverty. I was making maybe like $7.50 an hour, working odd jobs here and there, and I had to choose whether I could afford to pay for a traffic ticket or if I could afford to pay for my bills. And these are situations that a lot of people in this country are facing. You know, we have to choose whether to do something that is morally correct or morally incorrect or to sustain our livelihoods, and that's everybody's story in this country. The same year that I was incarcerated because I couldn't afford to pay traffic debt, I almost died. I had 2 blood clots behind my knee, behind each knee, as I was pregnant with my daughter. And my health insurance, my good health insurance decided that they didn't want to pay for it. And so I had to stay in the hospital for about 2 weeks while my team of physicians basically had to haggle with my insurance company because my insurance company was going to let me die. And my kid died inside of me, and I already had a son. And so they didn't give a damn about me, which is the story, unfortunately. And so all of these things caused me to look into politics because I was really politically disengaged because no politician or elected official or anyone running from office never knocked on my door. They never talked about issues that were important in my community. They never cared to ask me what would help me. And I'm not even going to think that, you know, maybe they didn't care, but, well, they didn't care. So they didn't care. But what made me start to look into these things were I started to wonder how things like this is possible. Like, how is this feasible? And so I began to look into politics, and I decided one day that I was going to run for office, but I thought that I couldn't because you have to go to college, you have to have a degree. I have, you know, over 70 whatever traffic violations for being over-policed. And that's not what a candidate looks like. But I decided to do it anyway because I was fed up and I was mad as hell that people like me were slipping through the cracks. And let's not leave out the conversation of voter suppression, how they leave people like me out of the political process in order to keep people like them in power. And so I'm running as a Black woman, as a lesbian woman, running to represent my district. Because we need activists, we need organizers, and we need directly impacted people to have their voices heard in Congress. Not even just in Congress, but in all levels of government. Because the time has come that we gotta say, hell no, F this, we need to start getting more involved. Like, people like us need to have a seat at the table. It should not be those who don't have any ties to our community. We gotta have community, and we gotta keep fighting. We can't give up on electoral politics as much as a lot of us would like to. We can't. So what we need to do is work along with organizers, work along with activists, work along with directly impacted people, and tell them that enough is enough. And not only do we want some change, but we can't get change until we get justice.
100%. I think you're covered with candidates until you decide to change what candidates look like. That's all I know, and I love that. I love that. Moving right along to my namesake, this is what we decided today. State Senator Nina Turner, representing Ohio's 11th District. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm just saying amen to what I've heard so far.
That's all you can do.
The sisters, amen. You know, there's a song in the African American church, and the words go something like this: how I got over. My soul looks back and wonders how I got over. So all the sisters up here are testifying today. You know, that's what we do in certain of the Black churches. All of them are not the same, but I remember growing up, there was testimony time.
Amen.
And we all tell them we got a testimony. I want to thank Sister Israel for inviting all of us to be in this space to lift one another and other sisters who are not necessarily in this space right here, right now. I am running this race because the needs are great. It really is just that simple. I am a hell-raising humanitarian, and I'm going to raise hell everywhere I go until we got equality and equity, because those are two different things. In some situations, we need equality, in others, we need equity. And what equity says is that if my sister needs a little more than me, then I'm going to give her that and not have an attitude about it. And we need to talk about the differences between equality and equity and be willing to stand up for equity in all of its forms. This really is a justice journey, and we need people with heart, we need people with conviction, we need people who are not going to just go along to get along. That is what we need. And I think our diversity is our strength. So even though we are all Black women, we may come at this in different ways based on our lived experience and based on what is on our agenda. But ultimately, if we're fighting for what is right, for what is just, and for what is good, we are definitely on the right track. We need to elect folks who are not just going to their places and spaces just to go to Christmas parties. We need them to make some folks who are comfortable uncomfortable. And even if those people are in our same party, because it's easy to fight against Republicans if you are a Democrat, or Republicans to fight against Democrats and Democrats to fight against Republicans. That's easy, because that's the script. What is the hardest part is to fight against or fight for something that is bigger than you, even if you have to draw the ire of people who may be in your same party. See, that's the hard part. And a lot of folks can vote the right way. That's nothing. You're not going to get no cookies from me for voting the right way. What I want to know is, are you going to fight the right way? Are you going to put something on it that causes you to inconvenience? So, Sister Turner, I am really in this because there are too many people suffering in my district, in my state, in this nation, and in this world. And I come from a people, we come from a people who put it all on the line. Absolutely. People who could see beyond themselves, people who never got a chance to taste freedom, but they saw us in their mind's eyes for a type of justice for all oppressed people. And we need to stand up for what is just right and good. So Sister Turner is here running this. Absolutely. Amen. We're gonna make it. We're gonna be here all night. Watch. Now, last but most certainly not least, looking ever so ethereal, this vision, Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding. Tell us about yourself.
Yes.
I feel like going
feel like going on. Though trials come on every hand, I feel like going on. When you invite the Spirit of the Lord into the house, then you must follow the Spirit of the Lord in the house. And these women who sit on this stage are in this room because the Spirit that guides each and every one of us. And I'm not talking about religion. I am talking about a spirit that is deeper and older and more consistent than anything concocted by man's imagination. I am talking about a spirit that carries on the winds of the coast of Africa, that travels across these places that we call Americas in this world today. A spirit that refused when so many others by force made the decision to jump overboard. I am talking about a spirit that lives after rape, after rape, after rape, in houses that we have where people want to rewrite history books. I am talking about a spirit of persistence, a spirit of love that transforms, a spirit that guides us into sacrifice. We can sit and tell each and every one of you the stories that have kept us awake at night, the stories that have made us to choose one decision over the next, and who to leave and who to keep going with and who to leave behind, because they didn't know that the call and the work on your life is much greater than the moment that we sit in. When we talk about what is happening on this stage in this nation, we are looking at women like Ketanji Brown Jackson, who sat, not necessarily with grace, but with fortitude, that was born and birthed in her, because it must be present for her daughters, for your daughters, for the children that have no idea the condition of this earth we are leaving them with. Who am I? I am merely a vessel for the spirit that binds us all together, that tells us there is not just an idea of hope, there's a manifestation of the promise that we could and we will live with our humanity and human decency honored. That there is no one greater than the next one and capable of ordaining who is undocumented, who is alien, who is foreign, who is not right, whose gender does not match, whose race is not the color that you want it to be. There is no construct that man can create that will deny us. And so there's an energetic shift happening. And the question becomes not who are we, but are you willing to tap into the move of the spirit that is happening? I am Reverend Dr. Stephanie Rose Spalding. I am running for Illinois' 1st Congressional District. I will represent not just the Illinois 1st, but for the spirit that lies in each and every one of us. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. So from where I'm sitting sitting, there's no way that you can sit in this room and not understand the anointing on these women. What's particularly striking to me is the way in which you guys use yourselves as vehicles to anoint other people and to inspire agency amongst everyone in a democratic way. I think that's one of the most pointed and important parts of all of y'all's messages. And so you can literally feel the energy in here. So keeping it with you, Reverend Dr. Spalding, in the social justice world, we talk about the fierce urgency of now. And coming off of that, I need to know, where does that fit into you and your candidacy, and how does that inspire you as you navigate such a unique space as a unique player?
Ooh, the fierce urgency of now. How many people in this room know how much a gallon of milk costs? Yes. A gallon of gas.
Too much.
A square foot of an apartment that is run down and infested. How much an EpiPen or asthma inhaler costs? When we talk about the fierce urgency of now, there are people whose literal lives are hanging in the balance of decision makers who think that they owe us something, that they believe they are in a position to tell us, who give them the privilege to sit on Capitol Hill in the halls of power, in the halls of Congress and make decisions, but they tell us what can and cannot be. The fierce urgency of now are babies that are literally living in war zones, being told that they cannot have lunch at school, but we could find money, and it is not to say that we should not and shall not care about what is happening across an ocean. But if you can't find money to feed my kids, where are our priorities? Where's the balance of human dignity and decency? We printing out of thin air just blank checks, but we can't come through on checks that have been written centuries ago. Indigenous people who keep telling us there is no more water that you're going to create. So if you do not protect what is happening, we are going to run out of a planet where we can live. We will all be refugees. So when I think about the fierce urgency of now, I think about all of the lives that are literally waiting. They are waiting for an Imani. They are waiting for Anita. They are waiting for Michaela. They are waiting for Christine. And it is up to us to move these people, move these women into position that we will do what is necessary for all the lives that are waiting for justice, that are waiting for someone to see and understand and to be moved with compassion, to legislate in a way that honors our human dignity and decency.
Absolutely. What I love about what you said, before I move on, is the way in which you're urging people to not think so smallly in the ways that we previously have. Especially coming out of a moment like COVID, it seems so interesting that we insist on kind of running back to what feels familiar, like endorsing the same old, whatever. And it's so interesting. What I love about all of you women is that you refuse to let us go back to a world that we just watched crumble. The smallness of it, the way it constrains and controls. Like, I love the fact that you all are keeping us motivated to continue to push towards the next paradigm, because clearly this one does not fit the excellence that inhabits this room and this space. Amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Woo. Okay, so moving over to Senator Turner, you represent one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. What do you think it is about your particular platform that resonates both with the people of Northeast Ohio, but also with the country overall? You have a lot of people who really connect with what you're saying, even if they've never been in your state. And so what do you think it is about your moment, this space, that allows you to tap into, you know, our collective experience?
I see you calling those things that are not as though they were. You know, poverty it's hard being poor, and I dare somebody, double dog dare somebody who's never experienced a trial. And while we sit up here coddling the wealthiest folks in this nation and in this world, and the people who have the closest ties, the power, we coddle those kind of folks. But then we ask the poorest people, the most marginalized people, to pull themselves up. And we flying other folks into space and about to subsidize folks to go up into space to monk it up there, but we can't take care of what's going on down here. Poverty is hard, and how I got over my soul does look back and wonder. And as my sister here was talking about her experience with the healthcare system, or a sick care system is what it is. It's really a system that does not give a damn about the people, because anytime your doctor got to ask an insurance company for permission to be able to serve you in the way that they medically said that you need and you deserve, there's something wrong with the system. The commodification of healthcare is immoral. So people can relate to what is happening in my district, because there are poor people in every district, every space and place in the United States of America, and it doesn't matter if that state swings red or blue, or a little country, a little rock and roll, a little gospel. It doesn't matter how they rolling. There is great need, and so those who are elected to office, not exclusively, but I think especially, have a moral and fiduciary obligation to serve the needs, to change the material conditions of the poor, the working poor, and the very middle class. And if they are not committed to doing that, then they got to go. And so we can't fall so in love with politicians that we don't challenge them, because they gonna be all right. A lot of these folks that are elected to these offices, and I'm not saying they haven't went through anything, but I want folks elected who have gone through some stuff. I want somebody that knows what it's like to be homeless. I want somebody who's had their house foreclosed. I want somebody who had to sleep in their car. You know, I want somebody that's had a trial and a tribulation. I don't want these folks that ain't never gone through nothing, because if you never gone through anything, then your compassion, your heart for the people is not there. And I'm not saying that there's some people who may not have gone through some of these examples that I'm giving you, that they don't have the capacity, but there's something about a lived experience by which you don't detach yourself from it, that you never get so big. And so while God has certainly blessed me in my relatively young life still, I'm still attached to not having food to eat. I'm still attached to having a mother die at the young age of 42 years old. I'm still attached to having her be among the class of people who are throwaways. She didn't make the right decision. She had too many kids. She got married too young. She should have known what she was doing. She shouldn't have birthed all these kids in the world that she couldn't feed and take care of. I'm not detached from that kind of judgment that often come to poorer people, but yet we let all these highfalutin folks off the hook. So I'm running because people need champions. They need people to fight for them and with them. I know we got activists in the world. See, the link with and for is a different kind of dynamic. And so as long as there are poor people, as long as folks don't have health care, as long as people don't have food to eat, as long as they can't afford their pharmaceutical drugs, as long as the legal system sees black men in particular as more criminal than anybody else, and throw in the sisters, and then all poor people from all walks of life is somehow more different than anybody else, then Sister Turner gonna fight. We gotta fight this fight and make a whole bunch of folks uncomfortable.
Absolutely. I'm taking this in with y'all, so forgive me. What I love about that is this idea of us needing champions. We need that. There's no question. We need people who are ready to scrap, because it is now. We are overdue. It's time. It's been time. But what I love about this, and what people will try to misconstrue in the way in which we're talking, and the tenor of the urgency, right, is that what I see, what I hear up here is tenderness. We are talking about causes that are driven by a deep empathy and a dignity for humanity. And the way in which we can show up is by making sure that we are supporting these women in their message, and making sure that we're reframing that, because this is only driven by an idea around collective well-being and how we can establish a baseline for all people to be able to show up as the main characters in their own lives. And so I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Michaela, I'm gonna hop to you. So, especially here running the DMV right up the way, what do you think makes you the best fit for your district, especially in comparison to your opponent, who, like Christine's, has been there for entirely too long?
Yeah. So I mean, we've heard a lot of stories that are just about, lived experience and being directly impacted. And I think that is very important to have in a representative. I don't look at myself as like a politician. I probably don't even sound like one or look like one, but I look at myself as like an activist and an organizer first. And what makes me different is that I don't want to be the voice for people in my district. I want to give the people in my district that platform to be able to speak for themselves. Because as an organizer, as an activist, and even working alongside some of the people in the room, like, I just mentioned too earlier, we see like on the state and the local level that it is the organizers that are pushing this policy. We just need a face to introduce it. And so that's how it should be on the federal level. We don't need one legislator being in charge of what's going on for the whole district. We don't need corporations making laws, because let's face it, that's what they're doing, putting that corporate money into politicians' pockets. We need organizers that are going to be the center of policy, just as we do it. I'm pretty sure all of us up here have had our hands in organizing. We know how it works. We pressure them, we cook them, and we let them know this is what needs to happen, and we put the work in. And that needs to happen on the federal level as well. There's too much power within these corporations and tied to these elected officials that have been there and that have made a profit off of our pain, essentially. It's not just the corporations that are profiting off of our pain, it's the politicians that accept that corporate money. But we also need more elected officials that have ties to our communities. Because as Nina Turner just stated, we need people that are still attached to those lived experiences, to where they actually care, that they know that it's going on and they care about it. Because what we have now is a system where we have elected officials that know what's going on and they don't give a damn. And that's something that we need to change. We also need a Congress that looks like us. Look at all of us up here, y'all. It's very much black girl magic. And we need that in Congress. We need more people that look like us. We need more people that have lived like us. We need more people that understand like us. And we need more people that understand. And I'm gonna steal it from Ayanna Pressley. I think it was her who said it, that we need people that are closest to the pain to have a seat at that table.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Because that is how we get justice. That is how we get change. That is how we get fundamental change within our communities. We talked about the sense of urgency. People like us understand that the time ain't now. The time has been gone and past. But the time is now that we say no more. And the time is now that we move forward. And the time is now that we don't go back to what was, that we create a new. And if it were me, and my campaign manager is not going to like this, but I would say that we burn this shit down to the ground. I think we need to burn this shit down to the ground and build that shit right. Oh, I'm going to say that for a case. But build that shit right the hell back on up and make it a system that is equitable. We need elected officials that don't just look at equality. We need equity. And speaking as a Black woman, they're lucky that we don't want revenge. They're lucky that people like me are running for Congress and not out in these streets. Because it could very much be that way. And so just to answer your question, we need people that are more relatable in Congress, that look like us and that understand that policy affects our lives. We are literally fighting for our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's incredible. I'm gonna just stick to my script because I can't keep up with read my words. So, Imani, I'm gonna switch to you now. How would you describe New Jersey's corrupt ballot system? As somebody coming from ballot access world, this means a lot to me. And how do you know that you can beat it? Because New Jersey has a very specific, unique situation. Y'all got your own stuff going on there. It's wild. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up in the North, there's kind of like this nose in the air mentality when it comes to voting rights. You know, whenever something in Georgia will happen or something in Alabama or something in Texas, folks are like, oh, well, I could never live there. Oh my God, look at all that's going on down there. Look at how they try to strip people's voting rights down there. And in New Jersey, we are playing just as much, if not more, ballot box games as Georgia, as Alabama, as Texas, as any other place in the South. In fact, we have the most corrupt ballot design in the entire nation, and that is not exaggeration. We literally have the only ballot that looks like this in the entire nation, where again, those white, rich, male, mostly, party bosses choose people to go on this long column of names, and it gives them a very strong advantage during election time. Everyday voters aren't choosing those people. The people who are exploiting everyday voters are choosing those people. Folks who have gone through things that we talked about up here, like difficulties with being able to afford health care, their house is nearly going into foreclosure. In New Jersey, we have a lot of issues with ICE facilities and ICE agents, people's families being split apart. The folks who are condoning that and facilitating that and pushing that forward, those are the people who are choosing to go on, who goes on that long column of names in New Jersey. So when people point their nose up at the South, just know in New Jersey, we are also being screwed over with our voting rights just as much. However, with that being said, nothing is insurmountable. No amount of money is insurmountable. No amount of white privilege is insurmountable. No amount of exploitation or oppression is insurmountable. All it takes is making sure that we talk to our community, that we get out there and do the voter education. Let people know your ballot is corrupt. Your ballot is the most corrupt in the nation. We get out there, we tell people, you don't want to vote for this long column of names. This long column of names is why your neighborhood is being gentrified right now. This long column of names is why your kid has asthma and kids in the suburbs don't. This long column of names is why you went to the hospital and now all of a sudden you find yourself going bankrupt because you had to get some health care. That's what that long column of names is doing. So we're going to get out there, we're going to talk to voters, we're going to organize in our communities, and we're going to give people the voter education and the power necessary in order to beat this thing, because it is beatable, and we will absolutely beat it again come June 7th, 2022.
That's absolutely right. I'm going to save my talking because I know we're being mindful of the time. So, Christine, thinking about all of this, and I wonder this for all the other women on this stage, but maybe you answering your experience. You know, what was it that finally tipped the scale? You know, what was it that finally clicked in your mind? It was like, hey, I'm qualified to run. Like, I need to do this. This is my time in this district. And I'm sure you all have had a version of that over the course of your, you know, your journeys.
So I get asked that all the time. What qualifies you to run for office? And I tell everyone, well, when I'm standing in my doctor's office as I'm miscarrying a child, and you're looking at me asking me how I'm gonna pay for it, I think it qualifies me to fight for Medicare for all. When I am going twice a day to take care of my uncle, to bathe him, to feed him because he had a stroke, I think I'm qualified to fight for not only Social Security, but also for disability, okay? When I have to drop out of college at 20, go back to college just because people asked me why I was qualified to run. Go back to college, not only finish my bachelor's, this is my last semester getting my master's degree, running for Congress, raising my 2 little children, and working full-time as a teacher. I think I'm qualified to run, not only to cancel student debt, but to fight for the tuition in college. When we have the wealthy in Miami Beach that are dealing with high tides, they can't even get into their properties. They're moving into our district.
and kicking our people out. And I can't even afford to buy a house in my district anymore. I think I can fight not only for climate action, but I can fight for affordable housing. What qualifies me, I've lived it. We have all lived it. I am not a millionaire. I am not sitting on a pile of corporate money. I am fighting because I am in it. And that's what qualifies me. You can check my credentials.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially these last three, I feel like the theme, I think you could say, is that y'all and everybody, including myself, including y'all in this room by virtue of being here, are just done playing games. Whatever kind of games they're playing with you, whether it's the displacement game, whether it's the, oh, do you look like a politician game, whether it's the ballot access game of like, this is the slate, done playing games. And I love that because I think at a certain point, it's just about naming it and then deciding that you're about to be about something different. I love it. I love it. So before we actually kick it off and open it up to people in the room and then also everyone joining us virtually, I figured I would get my question first. And just ask you guys a general question that lends itself to very much so why we're here this evening. As Black women specifically, what are some of the challenges that you face in this space running as you, especially in comparison to the people that you're up against? What are the things that stick out to you the most? What are the things that surprise you the most? What are the things that keep you up at night? Give us some feedback. Your headlights go out a little bit farther than ours do. So let us know, how would you describe your journey in this? Anybody, any takers? Who wants to go first? Imani, first up.
Well, I'm a person that, like I said earlier, I will not shy away from a fight. But I will say that, the press can be pretty nasty. I've been called a vagabond. I've been called unqualified. Now, mind you, I'm running against a guy that showed up to a Homeland Security meeting in his underwear. So, it's very, very interesting the double standards that folks will have for women of color who are running, who are perfectly qualified, who have lived in their community, who are fighting for their community, and frankly, who, even if all that weren't true, have the constitutional right to run for office. And so, there's a lot of those nasty comments. However, on the flip side of that, when I talk to voters, that is the best thing ever. Going door to door and knocking and talking to everyday people, they have been so supportive, whether they are Black women, whether they are men of color, and frankly, quite a bit of white people are also really tired of New Jersey's corrupt machine style of politics, and they have been very, very supportive. So, it's a little bit of a mixture there, but I can say that I am very excited about all the energy that is behind me as a Black woman, because a lot of people are excited to vote for the first Black woman who will ever represent New Jersey Tech.
And a woman, period, right?
Yes, that's
Which
right.
is insane.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Any other takers? How would you describe your experience? What are some of the biggest obstacles to running as a Black woman for Congress in the year of our Lord, 2022?
I wish I had my phone, but somewhere in the back has it, because I could pull up a tweet that, not a tweet, but a text message that questions how are you a reverend? You don't have a master's of divinity. How are you running, and where's your family on this picture? You have never been married. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yes, you've never had kids. So being single, being childless, being spirit-led, but apparently not ordained in the ways that people think one should be. Never mind that I have a whole PhD. Like I got a whole PhD.
Yeah. Doctor.
And pastored a congregation for 7.5 years.
Wow.
But when my credentials are put up against a name like Jonathan Jackson, because his daddy did some stuff, who ain't never held office himself. Let me just say that out loud, that his daddy ain't never held office, he ain't held office, and when his brother held office, he screwed it up. So being held up against
these individuals, oh, and mind you, and his daddy ain't never pastored the church. So that's there too. That's history, that's fact.
Yeah.
But being held up against the credentials of men in ways that even women themselves don't recognize the level of internalized oppression that they are throwing out to other Black women. But above all of that, because I can deal with that. I can be like, look at my LinkedIn page. I ain't got to explain none of that to you. The hardest part of running as a Black woman, I have a friend in the back who, well, a couple of friends in the back who knew me when I was in Colorado. Part of me being back home, and I had no idea that after 30 years, because we all share very similar stories, that Congressman Rush was going to retire. When I came home because there were white supremacists calling my job. There were white supremacists calling the church. And they were coming for my life after January 6th. And that is the hardest part, to know that I had to make a conscious decision about at what point and what place am I going to die and by whose hand. And not allowing white supremacists to take my life. Woo!
And so how do you navigate that sense of physical insecurity? Feeling like people, that's a common theme for a lot of Black women, whether it's by a stranger or supremacist or by somebody in their own home. How do you navigate that, especially in endeavoring to be a public-facing woman?
It's not the easiest because I'm also I am a peace-loving, war no more. I am so sick of war. I'm so tired of war. So it really is for me, and this is not, again, whatever motivates anybody else, it is a deep spiritual connection for me. Like, I sit on boards knowing that we are plotting for peace. Like, I've been on on Raw Tools Inc., and we take guns and turn them into garden tools. Like, that's how committed I am to no more war. So it's extremely hard, and it is a deep faith and spiritual commitment, but it's also my father who, we talk about our medical and healthcare history, who was paralyzed, has limited mobility, asking me every day to come pick him up so he can sit in the office with me because he's scared. It's making those decisions about who knows when and where I'm coming home and how I'm coming home, and having people looking out to make sure that I got home. Those kind of things, because they're like, well, you ain't got no husband, right? Ain't nobody at home looking for you. So it's such a lot of maneuvering and navigating, but also remaining true to my conviction. Like, it's not going to move me into advocating for violence as a response. I am truly committed to radical transformative love.
Amen. Amen. It's insane to me that we would ever ask any of these women or any of the multitude of other women running across the country, how are you qualified to run? If anything, the question is, who are you to even be asking? It's like, what are we doing? Who's next? Who else wants to tell us about?
I'll chime in on that, because you probably get, looked down on because you don't have kids or a family. I get looked down because I do have a busy family. Don't you want to wait till your kids get a little older? No, I don't want to. Oh, well, does your husband do the cooking? If you're out campaigning, oh, I'm sorry, because you think that I need to cook and clean, and that's the only job that I have, to raise the children. So I'm constantly, being challenged to prove myself. Like, I can handle it. Listen, if I can handle these toddlers, I can handle you. 100%. So I just feel like there's always a need to prove myself. And what keeps me up at night is thinking of the dirty tricks that the opponent is putting together. And knowing that nobody benefits if I lose. Nobody benefits if I lose. So I have to be 10 steps ahead of everything. So it's like always wheels turning. Okay, how can I strategize? And it's hard, especially when you are, I guess you could say a nobody. And people are like, you don't have any experience in Florida politics. And I say, good, I don't have any experience taking any corporate greedy money. You're absolutely right. I don't have any experience selling people out for, the CEOs. I have experience fighting for people, and that's that. So I think that as a Black woman, they expect you to be superwoman in your household and everywhere else. But they do not expect you to be a superwoman in politics.
Interesting. Only where it's convenient.
Exactly.
Only where it's convenient. Wow. Next up, go for it, Michaela.
So I would say some of the things that I have experienced is erasure, being like invisible. There was a local article that came out in Maryland about women that were running for office, and my name wasn't in it, along with a couple of other Black women that are also running. As a lesbian Black woman, people have inboxed me and said, hey, like, is it weird that you're even more hot now that you have a girlfriend?
Okay.
Whatever that means. But things like that, I've been called Shaniqua, which there's nothing wrong with being named Shaniqua, but obviously my name is not Shaniqua.
Right.
Being told I don't have any experience. Did you finish college? What school did you go to? How do you do this with 2 kids? Who's watching your kids? And the crazy part about it is I didn't even think of that as any kind of microaggression until you just said something about it. But I get asked that very frequently, like, how do you do this with 2 kids? Like, where are your kids at while you're out campaigning?
Wow.
But they don't ask men these questions.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't ask them, where are your kids? How are you doing this by yourself? But I just feel like as a Black woman, as a Black queer woman, there are intersectionalities of the things that I face while running for office. Being seen as inadequate because I don't have a college degree. Being seen as inadequate because for the little bit of time that I did go to college, I went to community college. Not recognizing the fact that many of us don't have college degrees because we can't afford it, because we have kids, because we have to work, which is one of the reasons why I couldn't finish. I have kids and I had to work. That happens. But I will say, as far as the question of what keeps me up at night, don't none of that shit keep me up at night. Because I have been through so much in my life. I have persevered through so much in my life that no words that anyone can say to me will ever make me feel small again.
I love that.
And I constantly reassure myself that I am big enough to do this, and that I am smart enough to do this, that I have experience to do this, and that I can do this, and I know that I can because I am.
Absolutely.
And so I just have to remind myself that I can do this. I don't have to have a degree. I don't have to be what people think a politician is supposed to be. I don't have to speak a certain way. Because for the most part, majority of what these elected officials say, we don't even be understanding what they be saying. And it's like, do they even understand what they're saying half of the time? So I just tell myself, I don't have to be that way. Like, I can speak to my people the way that we've been speaking. I don't have to switch it up. I'm done code switching. I'm done not being myself. And so, yeah, I don't let any of that bother me.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you remind yourself when you take time to remind yourself, and I think it also is a reminder for everybody else that they need to be more vocal about the way in which they pour into these Black electives. You know what I mean? And reminding you all for when you do forget on your own. So that's incredible. Last but not least.
Yeah, I'm a little troubled up there. Maybe people can sense my energy, but I'm gonna hold back on why I'm a bit troubled. But I just want to put that out into the space. More directly to the question that you just asked, the whole notion of angry Black woman. And we have a lot to be mad as hell about, and we should be loud and proud about that. But it is a stereotype and a trope that is used against Black women in general. and it can be especially weaponized against coffee bean Black women. You know, so because we do live in a nation where not only are we battling white supremacy and toxic masculinity on one hand, and all the other isms that come with the dreaming of a world or a world being created in that image. The world has been created in a Eurocentric image that is not good for humanity or the entire ecosystem. So that's another lecture for another time. However, we have to consciously, and I mean all of us, because Black folks do it too, what I'm about to say, we have to deconstruct our construction. Now, I don't have to agree, and we don't have to be in total agreement on every issue or every person, but I think there is an intrinsic value to just being a human being.
Absolutely.
And then take it at another level, the fact that we are socialized to believe that the closer to white you are, that dictates how beautiful you are, how smart you are. The further away you come from that image. Now I want to talk about not just white supremacy, I want to talk about anti-Blackness, and then I want to talk about colorism. Hello, can I just bring colorism into the space? And my experience is not unique. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of Black women, but especially dark-skinned Black women who speak their mind, and then it's easy to put that angry Black woman. Now, you don't have to be dark-skinned. I want everybody to understand me, but it's especially that. You know, I had a young man say to me tonight, he's supporting me, and I'm not putting him on the spot because nobody knows who this person is. You know, he just said something to me in here. Now, he's here, he supports me, his mother supports me, but he said, my dad doesn't support you, especially when you made your hair blonde. You know, I used to wear blonde afro, a little fro, you guys. I think Black women can wear anything they want to wear whenever. I'm just using that as an example, but just to say that this came from a Black person.
Yeah.
How we judge each other, and do we represent an idea of beauty that's flawed as hell?
Absolutely.
Whatever out there, however I present myself is beautiful because I decide to present myself, and I'm talking about us collectively. But there is a point, and there is a point though that we all must deconstruct our construction to push away the angry Black woman trope that is being used against far too many Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women. And you can have another Black person that propagates because they benefit from the trope being used against you. That happened to me in my last race. That person benefited from other folks labeling me in that way. So I want to go on record to say I am an angry-ass Black woman, okay? And y'all can join the club. You can join the club, sign up and take an application. Because if you ain't mad about something, and you ain't got a pulse, if you're not mad that people are unhoused, that babies go to bed hungry at night, which means their parents go to bed hungry at night, that far too many people are being locked up, that we have a legal system that is working as it was designed, that cannabis should be legalized. If you're not angry that folks are trying to unionize, but they're being blocked from being unionized because far too many elected officials are taking payoffs and bribes from these folks. It's legal to bribe politicians in America. If you're not mad about that, about income and wealth inequality, if you're not angry about something, then maybe something wrong with you. It ain't about me, it is about you. So I embrace it. You taking applications though. Folks can be honorary angry Black women if they want to. Black women make angry Black women make the world go round. And I hope people understand what I'm saying. And the other thing that came into the space that I'm not happy about, I will talk about that in private. Some people who know me and probably know my connections and read my energy probably know what that's about. I think it's more appropriate for me to have a conversation behind the scenes. I just want to say that we should lift one another and accept what other people have done, even if they have never held elected office, even if everybody has a space and a place. And that doesn't mean we always have to agree, but I'm just kind of troubled about an elder, that was mentioned here. And I do have a relationship with that family. And I don't think that we have to tear each other down in that way. And I do understand that all of my sisters up here are catching a certain amount of hair. I want to put that out there too. So I'm gonna just leave that right there, but my energy is totally shifted.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Wow. Thank you guys for sharing all of that with us. Before I go ahead and turn it over to the in-person questions and then also the virtual questions, and actually, quick 1 second. For those of you who are here in the audience, you'll see that there are note cards, maybe like little stickies on your table and probably some pens as well. If you could be so kind, if you have questions, to go ahead and write those down, and there will be somebody circling to collect them and bring them up here so we can make sure that we use our time most efficiently. And then we'll also be collecting questions from our friends joining us virtually, and those will also make their way up to the stage. So in the meantime, while you all are thinking about all the fantastic things you want to ask our panelists, I was going to turn it over to Isra to tell you a little bit more about how we can go about doing our part of supporting these women financially, because despite the fact that there is so much vision in this space, the reality is it still takes a lot of work and a lot of organizing and a lot of coin to run. And so these organizations, these campaigns are living entities that go through money and have to support people, and oftentimes they're trying to support organizers at a decent wage and trying to do things and create the world that we actually want to see versus the one that we've been unfortunate to have to inhabit up until this point. And so let's be mindful about the way in which we can recycle our coin and support these women in their endeavor to make the world a better place.
All right. So you heard some powerful stories. You heard a lot of the important work that these ladies are doing. This light is terrible. The important work that these ladies are doing is evident based on their experience. These women have, really intense races. I don't think we kind of covered the dynamics of these races, but we have a couple of 40-year incumbents here. We have open seats where there are multiple candidates running. There are upcoming elections, quite literally maybe a month from now, 2 months from now. We have two months basically to run some of the campaigns that are on the stage here. So I just want to stress, coming from a campaign management perspective, spent a lot of time in that space, that we are all we're grassroots funded candidates. We heard many times on the stage around corporate money and how we reject corporate money. And that is really important to highlight here. That is the reason why we're doing these events, that we're doing this event tonight. We want you to understand where your small dollar contributions actually go towards. All of these ladies came here out of their own pocket to be here for this event, to be in front of you to share their stories. And it is cherry blossom season, and the hotels are very expensive, and this event costs money. A lot of us came out of our pocket to put this on as well. So I just want to stress that small dollar donations go such a long way. I also want to stress that this is a very important fundraising deadline. These ladies are facing probably the most critical fundraising deadline. March 30th, a couple of days from now, they will have to raise, in some cases, $30,000, $40,000, right? So please dig deep. If you look at your table, you will see QR codes. Everywhere there is a QR code on these flyers is an opportunity to donate. So pull out your phones and scan the code. If you see the flyer that looks like this, that is the code where you can support all of these ladies. So you can split your contribution. If you do $100, each candidate will receive $20. If you do 1,000, you do the math. There is also another flyer where it has everyone's individual AppBlue pages, so you can feel free to donate to them individually as well. We are going to have another fundraising ask a little bit later in the program. We're going to check to see how much money we've raised in the next 10 minutes. So I'm please asking you to pull out your phones and scan the code to support these ladies tonight. And for those of you who are on the live stream, we will be posting all of those links as well so that you can immediately go to them. So please, I also want to name some other things regarding fundraising, right? Staff, field, printing, campaign material, actually supporting young people to knock on doors, right? Like actually paying poll workers, paying canvassers, right? In a lot of cities, we need to support our young folks that are getting involved with politics for the very first time, and we're wanting to pay them fair wages, $15 to $17 an hour, right? That costs money. That's the money that we're getting from you as a grassroots candidate. We'll support all of that. So please donate today, and we'll be sharing the link throughout the rest of this month. And also, please share these links with your friends, families, colleagues, everyone you can. Share your experience of the work that you've heard from the ladies today, and share your experience on social media so that they can also donate from home. So thank you so much for this time. And again, we'll be checking to see who has donated. And I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Laura. And how long after this event will these links be live? Just to make sure that people can share widely with their networks.
Through the end of the month.
Through the end of the month. Perfect. Are there no cards for me? Excellent. Oh, wow, okay.
There's another one.
Oh, and one more, okay, here's some more. Oh, wow. Okay, let's start here. So I'm just gonna open it up. It's to anyone, so whoever feels the strongest can go ahead and do it. And am I in the way? So what are the biggest, I know there are multiple, but what are the biggest issues that you as a candidate are running on? Who would like to start? This, okay, we want to kick it up? Okay. I know, sorry.
Okay. Wow, that's a really loaded question. I would say some of the biggest issues, and this is from speaking with constituents, with voters, is education, which is really important, especially the way that education is funded when we look at the equity of it. As far as it being largely funded by property taxes, when we heard earlier the government is printing checks for free, but not coming through when it's our most vulnerable. Another huge issue for me is healthcare. And I know all of us up here on this stage are huge supporters of Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all, but one thing that concerns me is that I don't think that it is enough to tackle medical racism. Because regardless of if I do have the means to pay, I need to be sure that my pain is taken seriously. And I say this as someone who was, I am a Black mother. I went through pregnancy twice. And the time that I did have blood clots, I went to the doctor 3 times and told them how I felt. I was told I was having a panic attack. I was told I was a hypochondriac. I was told that it was an asthma attack. And it wasn't until the 4th time that I went to the emergency room and I refused to leave did they decide to test me and found out that I had 2 clots, 1 in each knee and 1 potentially in my lung. Not only that, they found a mass on my uterus.
Oh, wow.
That turned out to be a fibroid. Wow. So all of this happened because I refused to leave. And so I think that when we do talk about universal health care, that we do continue to bring forth the issue of medical racism and how is Medicare for all going to tackle that. We also have a huge housing crisis. Mm-hmm. Now, my girlfriend's birthday was last weekend, and she remembered, sorry to put you on the spot, India. But my girlfriend's birthday was last weekend, and we went, we had a nice weekend at this hotel called the Darcy. And so we're just walking, we're driving on the way to the hotel, and there were tent communities. And people were just walking by, going out to eat. They had these 5-star restaurants everywhere, tourists, like everyone's nice. It was a convention or something going on with basketball. But we also have these same tent communities in my district, maybe like almost walking distance from where I live. And it's just crazy to me how it is normal, for us to see those things. And it shouldn't be. In the wealthiest nation in the world, we have people sleeping outside next to billion-dollar corporations, minutes, seconds from the White House. And so the housing crisis is something that is very near and dear to me. We have people that are on Section 8 for decades. A good friend of mine, and I used to joke with her about it, and I used to say, girl, you're gonna die before you get housing. Because that's how long her name's been on the list.
Yeah.
And part of that is because Section 8 isn't fully funded. And so something that my campaign has been focusing on is talking about fully funding the Section 8 program so that people who need housing can get it. And also widening the eligibility requirements for those who are eligible for Section 8 housing to include people who are undocumented.
Yeah.
And our plan, in addition to that, is to also build affordable homes that are also environmentally friendly, because climate is a thing, and it's, we're already seeing climate change. It's not coming; it's already here. And so, to me, those are the biggest issues: are housing, healthcare, and education.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure that resonates with so many other of our panelists up here. Are there any other areas that y'all are thinking about? I know there are tons. Y'all know about these women. But what are some that stick out to you in terms of like, burning that fire in your chest and kind of getting you out of bed in the morning when you're going out and talking to voters?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say the three biggest ones in our district are housing stability. I mean, it's a huge issue everywhere. We have some of the highest levels of foreclosure in the country in my district, mostly affecting older Black and brown homeowners, and also an issue with the constantly rising rent. When you see these huge developments go up with these huge glass windows, with rent that nobody can afford unless they're working on Wall Street, that's what we're dealing with in our district. So housing stability is a huge one for us. In fact, my family actually nearly lost our home to foreclosure. And ironically, my first job actually in government, I was constituent advocate in the United States Senate, and my portfolio dealt with housing, and it was in New Jersey. And about 80% of my entire portfolio, because I had housing, I had consumer protection, I had tax, a whole bunch of other stuff, but about 80% of my portfolio dealt with housing, whether that was people not understanding why the bank randomly changed something with their mortgage and now they can't afford to pay it each month the way they've been paying for 30 years, or whether they're trying to figure out where they were on the affordable housing list, and HUD would get back and be like, listen, they're like number 300. I mean, it's out of control. The lack of stability in housing in this country, and particularly in my district, are really out of control. So that's a huge one on my list. Also environment. In my district, we have some of the highest levels of childhood asthma in the nation. And that's because we are so close to New York City. And again, in my district, just like I'm sure in everyone else's district here, public transportation has not been invested in. So what's happening is a bunch of folks are driving from our district into New York for work or for pleasure or whatever. And a lot of that smog is getting caught in the air. And where a lot of those highways are particularly by Black and brown communities. So we have very high levels of childhood asthma, again, mostly affecting young kids of color. This past fall, we also had Hurricane Ida hit. I have lived in the house that my family nearly lost to foreclosure for over 30 years. Never has our basement flooded. Hurricane Ida flooded our basement. Wow. It flooded the entire area. And my town, where it is, we're actually on a hill. So flooding is it's not really an issue in the past, but now that climate change is getting so extreme, it's been an issue. So climate is definitely, and climate change is a huge one on my list. I am a huge advocate of the Green New Deal. My district, and as I'm sure everyone's district here, and even some of y'all, if y'all aren't in any of our districts, y'all need a Green New Deal. We all need a Green New Deal right now. And of course, I talked about our corrupt ballot design system earlier. Democracy is a very huge priority. Not only are people getting their voting rights stripped all across this country, but people are not even choosing their electeds, even in states that are blue, like New Jersey. And if we don't have democracy, we don't have anything. So those are my top three issues: housing, environment, and democracy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think all of us are really similar in terms of how we experience the systems of what is happening, and those systems play out in the issues that come up when we're talking to voters every day. But I'm just gonna call the thing as it is, and it's institutionalized racism, point blank. And institutionalized racism is the umbrella for which a lot of what is happening in our districts manifests. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, in the district, and you know, I witnessed what racism does to communities over the course of my life, and my family being multi-generational in you know, in the south side of Chicago. So as my parents are buying homes and working to put themselves through school with 5 kids, you know, non-traditional students, very much pink and brown collar. I say brown collar because my dad worked for UPS, so literally brown collar, and working their way through. The minute, like, there are sociological terms invented for the kind of segregation that happened in Chicago, right? So as they are moving in, white people are moving out, banks are moving out, businesses are moving out, and we watch the slow decline over the 30 years of what our community used to be. And you know, you get the promise of reinvestment that the schools will, the businesses will come back, the schools will thrive with the property taxes, and none of that happens. So there's divestment. There's complete economic divestment happening. So much to the point that even when I come back home, I have family members asking me, why would you move like back home? You know, like in the hood, you know? And I'm like, you forget, you know, what the wealth of this place is. And then you have urban developers and planners that want to tear down public housing like projects. My dad grew up in Cabrini Green, you know, all of these public housing projects, but they have no consideration about human beings and how human beings interact with one another, right? And so they move from this part of the city, they move people, they migrate people to other parts of the city. They have no concern about what gang warfare then becomes for already territorial human beings. Like, we organize around culture and the way that we interact. So now you have kids who are placed directly in violent situations, and you tell them that they have to go to school. So now they have to cross different gang territories because there was no urban planner in the place that had any understanding about race and culture and what is happening. And so now these schools, because you don't want your child to have to, before they can get to school, they don't have a bus structure. We have the worst mass transit for any modern city in the nation. They have to cross multiple gang territories. So now they're just not going to school. They have to make a decision. And so schools that were once 2,000 in capacity, now you have like my brother, who's principal, trying to keep 200 kids in school to get them through to the next level. And so all of the ways in which these systems are tied together under the umbrella of just racism is how, and addressing what it looks like to really truly build an equitable society. That's the work that we're doing in our campaign.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So let me ask y'all this. You know, thinking about how to, you know, give shape to a new political order and to instill more dignity in our policies and our practices, how do you all as candidates imagine bridging the gap, not only between, say more moderate people in Congress, more moderate representatives, but also I think there are a lot of people in this room who struggle with friends and family members who are more classically liberal. And so how do you guys go about thinking about bringing them into the fold of more leftism, or at least getting them to kind of push back against what we have understood as the status quo? It's a huge question.
Yes, it is.
I'm just the messenger.
So the thing that I say is, imagine there were no limits. What would you want? If I told you that today you can tell me, what do you want for yourself and for your children? What do you want? Oh, well, you know, I would like to be able to go to the doctor and know that, like, I don't have to sacrifice, food for a hospital bill. I said, okay, so it sounds like you want Medicare cost next. So, you know, I would love for my kids to be able to go to school, Oh, okay. Oh, tuition free college. Okay, great. Okay, next.
Okay.
So it's like you have to tell them. Imagine there are no limits. Okay, but then how are we gonna pay for all this? How are we gonna? Okay, but do you know the amount of money that we spend on the military industrial complex? Do you know how much money we spend for other countries to go to war for oil?
Absolutely.
Come on!
Absolutely.
We don't question that. When it comes to your health, I'm not questioning what I'm spending to keep you alive. So don't question me when I'm fighting for it.
Yeah.
Okay? We have to start changing people's perspective. My mom, I love my mom. She's probably watching. My mom is an old school Democrat. I don't know about all this progressive stuff.
Yeah.
Or I got her on our side. I said, Mom, look at the situation we've been in.
Yeah.
Look at the situation we're in right now. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know that you can afford your house?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to know that you could work full time and still not have to pinch pennies just to go buy a nice outfit one day or to put gas in your car? So yeah, I guess that sounds weird. It's possible. The only one putting limitations on that is you. I need you to think bigger. We did not get into modern civilization by people thinking small. We had came and they're like, okay, let's start a fire. Okay, what can we do with this fire? And now look at us. I'm a God-fearing woman. And so everything comes from my connection with the Lord. And I know that not everybody believes, that's okay. I don't judge at all. I'm not here to condemn anybody, but I know where my source comes from. And when I look at how I'm able to create life, when I look at how I teach math and science, I'm teaching these kids about the different creatures and just where we came from. Like, oh, look at God. We never limited what God could do. Why are we limiting what our government can do? So that's how I get people on the right side. So stop putting these barriers. No, it doesn't. Oh, well, how can we afford this? How are we going to pay for this? Or, oh, we can't do that. We can't ask for the government to actually cancel our student debt. We went to school. We earned that. Okay, you went to school to get a job that helps to stimulate the economy, right? They owe you because you're slaving away day in and day out, and your paycheck is going to pay your debt. Now, something about that ain't right. I teach math. It doesn't add up. So you have to take people out of what they know and sort of paint a picture of like, what would you like your life to be? That sounds pretty left to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, please go.
So my scolding hot take of the night is that leftism versus moderate and centrism is completely made up. It's completely media made up thing. And the only thing that actually matters to people is whether you deliver for them. Because everybody hates socialism and everybody hates leftist policies, but you know who doesn't hate getting their garbage collected for free? Have you ever heard anybody complain about that? Have you ever heard anybody complain that there are full sewage systems going throughout their cities? You ever hear anybody complain about, the fact that there are fire folks, that you don't have to hire private, fire policemen to come put your house out, right? So the biggest thing that we have to do to overcome that hurdle is to let people know we are here to deliver for you. We are public servants to deliver and serve for you. We represent you. And the reason why it's been so easy for us to kind of get caught up in this game of leftism versus, moderate versus centrist versus whatever, is because there have been people in office for so long who have not delivered. Yeah. And that has really, kind of misconstrued what all of this is about. It is about delivering for everyday people, delivering real resources, delivering real care, delivering real tangible things for everyday people in our districts and throughout the country.
Absolutely. So it sounds like we only have time for one more question. I think we're gonna kick it from the virtual group. Okay, perfect. So this last question says, how will you use your new political platforms to uplift/mentor other young Black girls and women?
So I spoke a little earlier about having people that are closest to the pain have a seat at the table, and not being a voice for the people, but giving them the platform, to speak for themselves. And as a Black woman who was a Black girl, who was politically disengaged because I was intentionally left out of the process, so many of us are intentionally left out of the process, I would want to draw them into the process. Give them a seat at the table. Let them know this is how our government works. This is what I do. You can do this too. Encourage them to run for office. But to let them know that you're not just a little Black girl. You can grow up and you can do things with yourself. You can grow up and you can do things with your life. I would help to give them that platform, to let them know that the same way that I was, the same way that I was left out of the process, the same way that I was counted out, the same way that I wasn't taken seriously, not even just running for office, but just life in general. Because let's face it, as Black women, we face these problems outside of running for office. And I think that the more that we open up these spaces to people that were like, to people that are like how I was and how I kind of still am, I'm still learning, I don't know everything. But I think that we need to start to open up these spaces and to allow people who may be overlooked, even in campaigns, when you're out trying to identify voters, a lot of campaigns go by what they call active voters, people who actively vote in elections. And they tend to skip over people who may just be registered to vote but don't typically vote. Those are people that we should be drawing into the process.
That's right. Yep.
And it's not even just Black women or Black girls, but it's Black people, period. They don't want us to be a part of that process. Because once we come in, people like our opponents go out. Once we rise up, they get shut the hell down. And they know that. And I think that, as I said before, we need to open up these spaces and we need to have these uncomfortable conversations and we need to start to shake shit up and let other people know it's okay to shake shit up. That's how we get change. That's how we get justice. But I think that allowing Black women and Black girls and Black people to be themselves and to let them know that it's okay, to let them know you're not stupid because you don't know this, you're not dumb because you don't know this, they intentionally left you out of this process. But I think that that space needs to be created. And you don't have to be elected to do that. Each and every one of us in this room can do that.
Absolutely.
You do not have to be elected. You do not have to have the platform. You can make the platform and you can bring your own damn table and you can bring your own damn chair and you bring your friends and you bring whoever else with you.
Woo! Amen.
And wholeheartedly, and to the point, our campaign includes young people. We're doing that work right now. Some of the youngest people inform us what we need to be thinking about. And just as an educator, that is near and dear to my heart in terms of like bringing the future with us. Indigenous people have taught me that we don't leave the earth to the next generation. We bequeath it from them. And so that level of mentorship in the process of doing is part of building a campaign. If it's gonna be anything worth being anything, right? Like it is how you are with little is how you will be with much. And so to Michaela's point, not waiting until you get to a place to start mentoring, but even right now, reaching out to encourage other young women and speaking it into their life. I went through the Emerge training in Colorado, and a couple of Emerge sisters are here in the room. And one of the narratives that they tell us is it takes asking a woman 7 times
7 times before she will even think about running for an office, because women often don't see themselves as qualified because they're thinking like, I have to have all of this before I can do it, which is not the same for men. You know, they wake up in the morning, a lot of times because of the way that our society is structured, they brush their teeth and they're like, I should be president. Right. So, and so the other piece of what I do in the process is to speak life into other Black girls and young women and say, so when you run, and just to speak it out, like if anything of politics interesting, when are you running and what are we running for?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, before I turn to wrap this up, I want to make sure that we circle back, because as you can see, these women have something to say. These women have things to do. And so the one thing that we can do in supporting them is making sure that they have the coin to continue growing their message and continue to inspire other people to help them in this work. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to another child of this endeavor?
Excuse me, I'm 25.
Oh, no, not child, but I'm saying like another mastermind of this event, Afeni, who will basically direct you all to ways that you can contribute to each of these marvelous women's campaigns.
You want to trying to stand in front of the
Go ahead, no problem.
Well, hello, y'all. My name is Afeni. I'm one of the campaign managers for Michaela Wilkes campaign. So I'm honored to be here. So, you know, I'm going to ask y'all for money, but I'm gonna say a couple things first. So I really want to just, again, sit in the excellence of Blackness that I see right here on this stage. As a Black woman, knowing that 2 of the reasons that I even became an organizer to begin with is on this stage, and I get to work with one of them, is honestly like the biggest honor of my life. So, you know, they talk about bringing Black youth in. Nina Turner, Michaela Wilkes, y'all are the reason why I'm here in the first place. So for far too long, we've been legislating. People that have legislated for us hate us as Black women. They hate our bodies, they hate our hair, they hate our essence. So they don't want us in their house. So supporting all of these Black women, even though we don't see it as revolutionary, it definitely is. And a system that is white, that a white supremacist system that hates us, doesn't even want us to be here, to be alive, to say that we're going to take our power back and we're going to take seats in your house while we do it, is revolutionary in nature. We don't need, you know, any more of these well-established, so quote unquote politicians to run. You don't need to have millions of dollars. You don't need to have a super PAC behind your back. You don't need none of that. But what you do need is the life experience of being a Black woman in this country. And I promise you, you can legislate, you can make decisions, because you've been closest to the pain. We are the ones that can destroy every system of oppression in this country. So I know that people have not been as engaged in politics because of everything that's been going on with the Democrats. I can tell y'all right now that those people, again, they're not legislating for Black women. A lot of them are not even Black women. They don't know any Black women. They don't talk to any Black women. The only ones they talk to are the ones that are so happen to maybe sit across the table from them in Congress, and they don't even talk to them respectfully. So it's not enough to continue to just say, like, you know, hey, this person's always been here, we should just continue to vote for them, that it is what it is. No, we have to continue to challenge the system. This is not the only way to challenge the system. So, you know, as you donate to their campaigns, make sure that when they say hit the streets, you outside too. We outside. We outside all 2022. So if you can find it within your means to donate to all these candidates, please do continue to support their work, because I can tell you right now that they do not want any of these women to be in Congress, no matter what. They don't want them to be there because they know what line they're going to hold. They know that they're going to join my sister Cori Bush and actually holding that line and fighting for us. and not conceding a goddamn thing while they do it. So please, 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 if you have those flyers on your tables, you have the group link, you have the one flyer that has like a big group link that will split it evenly against all these candidates, amongst all these candidates. You also have the one that has each individual act blue, if there's a candidate that you're really feeling tonight. But please, please, please know that this does not end here and that there's so much work to do. Once we get them in Congress, we have to support them. Please. We have to support them, period. So thank you so much. Please donate, and yeah.
And so with that, we're transitioning towards the end of our program. Everything that could have possibly been said has been said up here and through you all, through these questions. I think that this has been a really moving conversation. What I would like to say as the moderator and being able to sit up here and feel you all's energy and also be able to feel the energy coming off of the audience, there is something to be said for holding the line for even just the idea of better. And so to the extent that whether you are, new with this, not so new with this, have children, don't have children, either way, you all are contributing. You are essentially midwifing the next version of this world, and we thank you for it. Yeah. And so in any way that we can show up, whether it's in the streets, whether it's with coin, however it looks, it's one thing to say, trust Black women, but it's another thing to follow them into the battle for our souls. And so I really do think that, tonight has been transformative for so many people, and we're excited to really see what you all do when you get to Congress. Please.
I just want to say thank you again for excellent moderating and to Israel for Allison Consulting. And this is not necessarily planned, but I think we would be remiss because there are how many 500 plus people in Congress, right? And one showed up tonight. One showed up tonight for these Black women who are working to move this country forward. I think we would be remiss if we do not at least acknowledge and allow, if there are any words that Representative Cori Bush would have for us.
Wear my mask, I'm in Congress. No, I'm just playing. Here, I'll take it off up here. First of all, this is a freaking amazing. I didn't have anything like this when I was running. We tried it, we wanted to. Just the FYI, Izzy was my campaign manager from my historic race. And I want to shout out my chief advisor is here in the audience. And let me tell you, the great work comes from a very great mind. It's not just me, it's my team. So I'm in the room. I love what you all have up here. I love what you all are doing. I love this idea of bringing Black women together to talk about our issues and how we want to address them. And putting it before the world, you all, this is amazing. And I'm so glad that I've met every single one of you, except you. I'm so glad I get to meet you today. You all know my big sister, Nina Turner, S&T, and I go way back. That's my big sister. She's the reason why part of the reason why I'm seated here today. And then one of my closest friends in the world, Stephanie Rose Spalding. But I just want to say this. I know that people are wondering, like, okay, yeah, I gave. Because, yeah, they're wonderful. They're brilliant, beautiful. We need them in Congress. I know people are saying that. But let me tell you what it's like when you have to run, because this thing is in your soul so deeply that you sacrifice while you're struggling. to be able to do this. Now let's be clear. No one sitting up on this stage came from generational wealth and they're just able to toss it out and now they get to be in Congress. We're talking about folks that have to do the regular everyday thing to be able to just survive, let alone thrive. And we're talking about people that have to walk through a gender pay gap. They have to walk through a racial pay gap in order to just make what other folks make doing the exact same work. So we're talking about folks that have to deal with that. And then on top of that, they made a decision to run for a seat that they didn't have to do. They made a decision to put themselves on the line, to open themselves up for criticism and scrutiny that is undue and unjust and unfair. They opened themselves up to be in a position for targeting that they don't even deserve simply because they chose to step up to care for someone that's not them. So, no, you clap for that. Yeah, you clap for that. Because what we don't get to see is the tears. What you don't get to see is the days when they say, you know what, I'm done. I'm quitting. You know how many times I said I was done and I would be, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And Izzy's like, okay. And she's still scheduling stuff. That's why I'm here, because the next day I still had a schedule. But on top of all of that, on top of them saying we don't look professional enough, or we're not as educated as the folks will want us to be. Are you an attorney? Who's your parent? All of those things. On top of that, Black women, the research shows that Black women bring in the least in donations than any person on the planet. On the planet. And why is that? Are we less capable? Are we less than? Do we not deserve to lead? Our vote matters, but our leadership doesn't? I remember going through my, when I was running, I was going through my, as I was, call time, Jesus. Look, because it's traumatic. Going through the call time log, and it would pull up a person's name, and it would show their donation. Over and over again. Do you remember this, Izzy? Over and over again, there would be a name of a person, and all of this person's donations, and all the men they donated to would be 4 numbers. 3 and 4 numbers. But when you get to the woman's name, so the women that they donated to would be 2 numbers. Maybe 1. Look, maybe 1. And why is that though? And I went page after page after page after page. We have to get out of the mindset that this will work, but really the real politician is the man. We got to get away from that. I don't care what your gender is, or even if you identify or not, be non-binary, whatever, it shouldn't matter. But because right now it matters, because folks try to push us to the side, so then we need you to kick in harder to make sure that we get up front where we need to be. So what I'm asking is, make a sacrifice. And this is to those watching virtually as well. Make a sacrifice that says, you know what, I'm not just going to, like we said, trust black women, believe Black women, stand with Black women, but your treasure shows who you stand with and who you stand for. And what do I want to see in the world? What do I want to duplicate? What do I want to double? What do I want to extend? What do I want to expand in the world? Well, the vision that you heard up here is what you want, so you got to do the work to see it happen. So, I know what it's like to want to pay a campaign manager and not have the funds. I told Izzy, because I didn't have the money, I told Izzy, if you want to be the campaign manager, as much as I want you, I love you, I can't afford you, so I need you to come in and help make your own salary. That's how we had to get started, because I didn't have the money. They shouldn't have to be there. Let me tell you, it's so hard. Don't make them be there and then draw from the well that they have. Don't draw from the well that is good and giving life, saving, life changing, transformational change. Don't draw from that and won't put into it to see that it grows. So I'm asking, as someone who knows what it's like, and I remember when I ordered 500 yard signs that just said Corey Bush on them. Yeah, I got my signs. I was so happy I got my signs. Baby, those signs was $1,200. I'm like, okay, I got 500 signs. Only Corey Bush. The day of the election, I was going up to people, hey, you know, and they were like, you know what? Oh, I didn't vote for you. I thought Corey Bush was a white man. I didn't have the money to get the information out as far as I needed to. So the next time, $1,200 for 500. The next time I ran, and I'm gonna wrap this up. The next time I ran, I said, okay, I'm gonna put my face on it so people will see. For those that didn't get the message another way, they'll see. They'll get to see. I put my face on my yard signs. Those same 500 was $4,900 because now my face was on them from $1,200. For 500, our districts are over 7,000. Folks' win numbers may be in the 100,000. We don't know, but that's how many folks they gotta touch. So we need your help. So if you gave $7, if that $7 isn't sitting well with you right now, go back. It's okay to go back. It's okay because you're investing in what you want to see in the United States. I just came back from Honduras and Guatemala, and let me tell you, we need the U.S. to do better. Yes. We need it to do better. But this is how we do better, when we elect folks that care about us from their soul, because they understand us from the soul. So what is that worth to you? I'm asking you to make another donation. I'm asking you to go deeper, and I'm a preacher. Y'all done brought a preacher on to talk about money and fundraising. So I'm talking to those on virtual right now. If you have the full $2,900 that you can give right now to a candidate. Yes. $2,900. Somebody has $2,900 for a candidate. If you have that right now, you know I'm talking to you because you feel this tug, you feel a pull right now, and you're twisting around in your kitchen, and you just wondering like, is she talking to me? She ain't talking to me. I'm talking to you. $2,900 goes to somebody on this stage, and for those of you that have more than that, let me say that it's quite a few folk up on this stage that need your help, not because they just want to be a politician and they want to be seen and have a title. That ain't it. It's because they want to help you in your legacy. So $2,900, go ahead and make that donation. You know how to make it. Go ahead and make the donation. For those of you, somebody else says, well, I don't have $2,900 for each. I didn't have it for the one, but you know what? I got 1,000. Yes. Somebody in this room has 1,000. Or they have the 2,900. Yeah, I ain't afraid to ask no more. Who got somebody in this room $2,900? Want to stand up? $2,900. $2,900. Somebody has it. Somebody has it. Somebody raised it. Somebody has it. $2,900. That's for one person. Somebody, there we go. $2,900. Thank you. And we understand it's a sacrifice. Like, we don't take it lightly at all. This is not a joke. We do not take it lightly. We do not take it lightly. But that $2,900 you just donated, that money will help somebody even be able to have a rental space, to be able to have a place to call a campaign for 1 month. So thank you. Thank you. Now, somebody else in here has $1,000. Matter of fact, there's a few folk that have $1,000. I know you might not have thought you wanted to spend it on this today, but we're talking about your life and your legacy. What is it worth to you? $1,000. If you're watching on this screen, $1,000. You got it. You feel uncomfortable. Thank you. $1,000 here. Who else has $1,000? Wave your hand if you got $1,000 that you want to donate to make sure that your legacy is about your children's children, not about what happens today. And let me tell you, they'll tell you, oh, what freshmen can't do. They'll tell you what Black women can't do. Well, we just kicked that all to the curb because we've been able to do some amazing work. So I'm just me. There's a whole bunch of other folks like me. Some of whom are on this stage right now that's just waiting for the moment, and you are holding the moment in your pocket. So thank you for the $1,000, $500. Somebody has $500. It's a few.
But they're holding you. Because a lot of fights you got to fight by yourself.
My God, I cried. I ain't ashamed to say it, I cried. Because I say all the time, I need help. SMT, haven't I told you that? I need help. I've cried to you. I've cried. Stephanie, I've cried to you so many times. I need help. This was before she ever decided to run. I need help. I was on those steps. I need help. Send me some help. Who has $500? Several folks. If you got $500, stand up. $500. Somebody needs you. And I know we want the big money out of politics, but they playing with the big money and send folks so that we can get the big money out of politics. Because right now the mindset is not there. Folks love our speeches. They'll tell me, ooh, Corey, I love you so much. I just love you. Ooh. And they'll slide me that $3, but then they'll give somebody else $500, and they didn't even tell that person they love them. $500. Somebody has $500. Somebody has 500. 500. 500. The preacher on the step. There we go. Somebody got it. I know. Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 And look, this money is going to bring these folks home across this finish line. This money is not we're not playing with this money. Let me tell you, every single penny goes towards the work. It's the blood, sweat, and tears. And let me say this, we can't depend on volunteers to do everything. As much as we love the help, we gotta pay folks. You wanna pay folks to do the work. We appreciate the volunteers, but we need to pay people. And pay people more than $15 an hour. Okay, I'll stop at that. $100. Anybody in the room? Thank you. $100. Anybody else? $100. $100. Y'all don't want me to sing. Y'all don't want, trust me, you don't want me to sing, but I need another $100. If I start singing, everybody gonna want to leave. $100. Somebody else has $100. We got one. Is there another? I'm not gonna say. Thank you. We got another. Did I see one other hand? Where we at, Izzy? Where we at? Yes. I wasn't even called to do this up here. I just decided to start doing it. Because I know what it feels like. Let me tell you, I know what it's like.
$2,520.
We're at $2,520. What's the goal?
$10,000.
The goal is $10,000. So you're at 20. You had that before I started. So we added another 29. We added 1,000. This is not what's even on the people that's going through the virtually. So we're getting close. So we're probably about $2,000 short. So as you're sitting there thinking about it, think about what you need and what you want to see. This work is about loving humanity so much so to where we can't sleep at night because somebody is weeping. We can't sleep at night. We can't eat because somebody is hurting. And not only working for you and your legacy, but looking at how that affects this world globally, because how we treat others, how we treat others, that turns around and it comes back on us. So, if you care about this movement, Black women, getting more of us in these seats, you have a network of people. Everybody in here has somebody that they can call, a couple folks that you can call. I understand if your pocket's saying, look, I love it, but I can't do it. I get it. No, there's absolutely no judgment. None, zero. But if you know some folks, then I'm charging you with reaching out to them today. Send them a text now. You got the information, take a picture of it. It has the QR code on it. Take a picture of it, send it to them. Just tell them I need you to donate. Even if they got $25, tell them to sign up for a $10 a month, a monthly recurring. Those monthly recurrings change our races. Ask them to do that. And I'll be done. Let me just say to you beautiful folk up here on this stage, I applaud you for making this move. It is not easy. Folk talk about you and smear you and all kind of stuff, and you just trying to love on people. Thank you for what you're doing and how you're showing up for the people. And don't let anything being said or done take you out of what you know, your reason why you're running. Don't let anything and anybody, when you run from here for the right reason, for your mission, you stay the course and you allow God to do the rest. Thank you.
There's nothing else to say. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening. Continue your support financially, in prayer, in whatever ways. It all means so much and gets these women across the finish line. Y'all be safe. Take care. Thank you again for coming.